just hit the recording. Yeah. So everybody, nice to have you all here. This is actually an NKBA presentation I did about 2 years ago that I brought up to date. And I was actually telling Miriam before you all hopped in. Oddly enough, I had a phone call yesterday from an individual that saw this same presentation I did 2 years ago. They need to have their website redone, and so they have reached out to me and said, they. And I was like, "How did you hear about it?" She's like, "We had saw your NKBA program." I'm like, "2 years ago?" She's like, "Yeah." So a lot of this information when I was looking over it this week, a lot of it is still valid. There were a few slides I had added in that helps to have it up to date now, but a lot of this is what I have presented. Now, this is not a CEU because I haven't had it approved, so don't think you could go to the NKBA and get the units on this. But I believe the old one is up still if you want to watch them. So, all right, and what we're going to talk about. So, like I had said last week, we're going to break this up into 2 weeks because it's a lot of information. So we're just going to do website today. Next week, we're going to do Google Analytics. And as opposed to a slideshow, I was telling Miriam too, I'm going to be in the back end of Google Analytics and show you what's there as opposed to slides. Because it'll be more helpful, I believe, if you're watching me in Google Analytics and see what you need to know as opposed to just seeing, slide images. Okay, so that's what's going to happen next week. So it's going to be a two-part where we usually like to cover everything on week one, but I didn't want to have you here for 2 hours. So that's why we're breaking it. All right.
Okay.
So what we're going to talk about today, the common issues that we found, on websites over the last year. Now, this is up to date because I had to look at what I had presented 2 years ago. Some of it is the same, but a lot of it has changed. Why, website conversions is vital. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the fundamentals, which you may have already heard me say a lot of this, what the fundamentals are. A lot of you already have this on your website anyway. And then what are the critical elements? So I'm going to go over about 12 or 13 elements. Mind you, when I go over all this, you do not have to have all of these on your website. If you have them all, that is amazing. And honestly, within a few months, you'll probably dominate the competition. But for homework, I'm going to just say, look at 2 or 3 that you do not already have on your website and focus on those. So I don't want you to be overwhelmed when I go over all these things. All right. So the common issues, what we see and what we have seen over the last year is the website is out of date. Now, in 2020 is when a lot of websites were redone. And that was because of the coronavirus, everything that was happening. So a lot of businesses had a lot of extra time, and that's when they brought their website up to date. But what we found is that is the last time a lot of the websites were brought up to date around 2020, 2021. And as you know, with technology, things are always changing. So even if you have a 3 or 4 year old website, if you haven't done anything since that time, a lot has changed. So bringing your website up to date is one of the issues we found that needs to be addressed. Slow loading websites. So that is one of the SEO, one of the things SEO looks at, search engine optimization, that the search engines look at is how fast does your website load? All of the pages, the images, whatever. How fast does that take? On average, you want to try to have it within about a second and a half, 3 seconds at the long. I mean, at the absolute minimum. I mean, maximum, because 1.5 seconds is usually the average. If you have it beyond that, if you have it beyond 3 seconds, that's when it becomes problematic. That's when you start having people drop off their say it's just loading too fast. I'm gonna look for another remodeler. I'm gonna look for another designer because this is just taking way too long. So 1.5 seconds usually is where you want to be at. If it can load faster than that, great, but that's usually the average. Mobile optimized. Still to this day, we find that there are sites that are not mobile optimized, and that's amazing because 80% of search starts on a mobile device. So if your website is not optimized for mobile, you're losing clients because most of them will start looking at you on a mobile device. And if it's either not optimized, it's loading slow, it's not the same layout as on the desktop, then you're losing people. So making sure it's mobile optimized. Most of the websites now, if you've had your website built within the last few years, it should already be mobile optimized. But I still see websites today that when you look at the desktop, you look at the mobile, completely different or is not optimized at all. And so that's a no-no. Today, especially when about 80% starts on a mobile device. So poor user experience. So that is saying that is if an end user is looking for, say, for instance, they're looking for kitchen remodeling, and then they come to your website and they have to search to find out that's what you do. So if they're having to look around your website to see, okay, does she or does he do this? Are they into kitchen remodeling? Are they doing hospitality? It's hard for me to tell because I see some hospitality images here. I see some restaurants. Are they doing mainly commercial work? So if they're having to search to find out what you do, that's poor user experience. Once they step on your website, they should automatically, immediately know what you do. If they're having to search and find, 9 times out of 10, they're going to leave because it's just too confusing. And you all know we're in the microwave society. Most people have the attention span of a goldfish, so they want to immediately see what they're after. If not, they're going to jump. So you want to make sure that within no more than 4 clicks, they're able to get to wherever they need to go, whether that's to contact you, whether that's to look at a project within 4 clicks. So that's meaning once they're on your website, honestly, you want to have it lower than that, around 2 clicks but 4 is like maximum, where they may, click on the project page and then click on the actual project and then afterwards click on whatever your CTA is to contact you for whatever it is. But having a bad user experience is almost apropos to you losing clients. All right. Website analytics are not monitored. That's what we're going to really, talk about next week, is making sure that you have Google Analytics and Search Console on your website. If you remember when we had the SEO month, that was back in November, I said to have that on your website because it's going to tell you a lot about who's visiting your website and all that. But you need to also be analyzing that because that will tell you where are they dropping off, how long do they spend on the homepage or on different pages of your website, where are they coming from, how do they find you. So all of this is information that if you don't know, you need to know, because it's telling you what the end user is liking on your website and what they're not. Okay. Following up with the leads. So this is, and I actually have this on website because now oftentimes you can automate a lot of these processes on your website, where if they fill out a contact form or if they do anything, you can now automate a lot of the follow-up, where if you have somebody in your office taking the calls, they may be on the call when another potential client or a prospect reaches out to you, and if you don't have a way to follow up with them, you might lose them. Because what we've seen is that a lot of, and what they always say too, is that the money is in the follow-up. a lot of times, if you don't have a good follow-up process, that's where you can lose a lot of prospects as well. Okay. Social media is not maintained. Now, that may seem odd for a website, but if you have social media out there and it's not up to date, oftentimes if a prospect looks at your social media profile and you haven't posted anything in about 2 or 3 years, they're going to assume, okay, well, if I head to their website or if I hit there, they're not keeping up to date on what's happening. And if you have your social media connected to your website, like if you have the Facebook icon, the Instagram icon, if you have those icons on your website and they're connected to your website, you need to make sure that the content is at least no less than a month old. Okay. Even if you're not posting every other week or whatever, at least be within a month. So we're in June now. So you should have something up as of late April at the minimum. Okay. So because what we've seen is oftentimes when the prospect look, they may not head to your website first, they may head to your social media. And then they'll look at it and they'll prejudge, rightly or wrongly. If you aren't posting at all, they may say, okay, well, they're not up to date with that. Or on the other end, if they go to your website and then they click on your social media and they see it, so they may prejudge. So that's why you want to try to also keep that up to date. Like I said, no longer than a month. And then that, so even if you did, once a month, that should be minimal on your social media. Okay. Website reviews are not managed. Now, that's actually twofold. So with the website reviews, what that means is that you either have older reviews on your website or they're not connected to live widget. And we're going to get into this when we talk about what you should have on your website. But oftentimes, and we've found also, is that if you just have the written reviews, some prospects may not believe it's real, especially if they're off 5 stars or whatever. And if they're recent reviews, which they should match exactly what's on Google or what's on Facebook or wherever the review came from. They should match. So in the event the prospect goes to see on Google, on one of the Google profiles or on Yahoo or Houzz or Facebook or wherever you have the reviews, if they want to verify all that, they can see it. If it's older reviews, if they're on there and you don't have a live click to where it is, then that may almost have them prejudge, okay, well, have you done work within the last year or within the last 2 years, because your last review was like 18 months old or it was like 2 years old. So that's something that you just want to, every now and then, as you get reviews in, if you don't have a live connection to the reviews, and I'll talk about what that live connection is in a minute. But if you don't have a live connection, you want to at least monitor as you get reviews in, making sure that that review is on your website somewhere as well. Okay. Ineffective call to action. So making sure that you have some type of CTA. That's saying, reach out to me for an appointment, join my newsletter, reach out for a free estimate, whatever your call to action is, making sure it actually aligns with what you do and what you're trying to get out of the prospect. And then accessibility issues. I had talked a little bit about this when we had talked about SEO, but this is a growing aspect, really. And Robbie, this is going to really hit you before it hits everybody else, because California is actually on the forefront of having accessibility on websites. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute as well. Okay. So why website conversion matters. So this is an example that we had looked at when I had originally did this presentation, and we had did this with a client we had, and we had looked over 6 months of what would happen. And so when you are actually optimizing your website, it plays a huge factor in conversions because the more that you're able to optimize your site for your end user, for what they're looking for, and then be able to present to them exactly what they're looking for, they're more likely to convert than if they're having to, like I said, with a poor user experience, look around. If they're not 100% sure that you're the right designer or remodeler for them, the more you're able to incorporate a lot of this into your website, the easier it is for you to convert the prospect into a client. Okay. So one of the examples we had did about 3 years ago, and I had redid this about we had did this about 6 months ago, looking at a client we had in Houston where we optimized their site. So this is the same. So this was before they did any type of SEO optimization with the same amount of traffic. Looking at the same amount of traffic, just optimizing the site. So looking at 500 visitors per month. Now, obviously, after we did SEO, the visitors went up, but just for the example, we only looked at the first 500 to compare what would have happened in the past. Once we did a lot of the optimization, the conversions went up because obviously now when they've optimized the site, CTAs are where they need to be, the user experience is there, the website loads how it's supposed to load. So using the same traffic, no other traffic, the conversions went up by 15%. So you can automatically tell that since that went up, they made more money because now they were able to close more leads and they were able to book more jobs. Now, this was a larger remodeling firm. They had about 20, they had about 25 employees, but just by making small changes in their site to make sure it's optimized, it increased the overall conversion rate of the leads that they would have already have received. Well, from the visitors that they would have already have received to the site. So making small changes here and there can have an impact. All right. All right. So now with the fundamentals, a lot of this is what I have talked about in the past, and so you may know have seen this graphic before, which is hasn't changed, where you want to make sure that when anybody comes to your website, when they're in the above the fold area, and what that means is that when they come onto your site, the above the fold is anything they see right when they enter the site before they have to scroll up or down or click on any other page. So all this is information they should see. They should see your primary contact information. You should have a number somewhere at the top because remember, 80% of search starts on a mobile device. So if you have your number somewhere near the top and they say and they're already interested, they already know they have either been referred to you by one of your past clients, they've heard you on something else, and they already know they're not there. So it's easy for them to go to your website and then call because your number is right there at the top and or email. Okay, so having that information at the top, having your name, logo, main navigation, how do they get to the pages they need to get to fast and simple, or what you want to try to have if you can. You want to have a sticky header. And what that means is that this header at the top here, as you scroll down, the header comes along with you. So that way they never, if they ever want to get to like the testimonials, if they ever want to get to contact us, project page or about us, it's always as they scroll, it's right there with them the whole way. Now you don't have to have that, but if you can, or if you're updating your website, that's actually preferable to have because we've seen that the sticky headers help you in terms of conversions. All right. The authentic images, obviously having good images that are yours on the website that are that wow, helps out. a clear description of who you are, what you do. Like I said, once they come in, knowing exactly if you do kitchen remodels, whole home remodels, roofing, whatever it is, they know immediately I'm in the right place. I'm not looking for landscaping and I came here, or if they were looking for landscaping, immediately they know you're not the one for them. Okay. A clear call to action, having that in there, whether that is, like I said, reach out to you for, a free consultation, whatever it is, having that up there. Social media links, like I said, going back to one of the issues, if you have the social media links, making sure that that social media is up to date at least a month from where we are, and then making sure it's mobile optimized. All right. So now the critical elements, like I said, there's going to be a lot of them to go over. You need to only, as we head to the homework side, only look at about 2 or 3 that you may not have that you want to focus on. Okay. So I always start with the client avatar. And this is because once you know it, and I start here because once you know the client avatar, now you know the type of content that needs to be on the website. We've talked about this before in the past, but if you haven't already done this exercise, make sure you do the exercise. We have the guide in there that you could go over all this. If you have any questions on that, we'll be happy to answer. But this is vital because it helps you determine the type of content you need to have on the website. And like I said, once you define who that is, now you can compare what the content you have if it's actually resonating with your end user. Okay. So be real. So what that's talking about is having authentic images on your site. A lot of times I hear from designers complaining about their images ending up on other people's websites or anything like that. And so having your images that are those wow images, having those on your website. So you want to try to have, and this also goes back to, you want to try to have your most up-to-date projects on your website, because oftentimes what we've seen on a lot of websites also is that they have projects from 4 or 5 years ago. Yes, that may be a good project and maybe their images, but is that the best representation of you now? Because we all know as you do new projects, you learn new things, you use new products, new appliances, you learn new aspects to incorporate. So having your best, most up-to-date projects on your website helps you because it's actually attracting the right type of clientele. Because I would assume if you have your best, most recent projects up on your website, those are the type of clients that you're looking for. Because and when they're seeing that, they're almost imagining, okay, can this happen in my space? Do I like that? Do I like that style? Do I like what they the type of models that they do? So if they aren't into that, if you're more into like the classical style, or or into modern, whatever it is, if they aren't into that style, they may not be into your a designer or a company, but that may save you time because now you're not having to deal with a client that you don't even want to work with, or that, but now you're attracting more of the type of prospect that you want in your business. So try to update your images at least, I say, at least look at your images at least every 6 months. Okay. So every 6 months, look at what's on your website. Is that representative of the type of projects we want? Okay. All right. Using multimedia. So if you're up to it, having being on video and is, we've seen, helps a lot, because at the end of the day, people are gonna want to work with you, or gonna work with other people that they know, like, and trust. And one of the best ways for them to get to know, like, and trust you is if they see you or members of your team in videos. Now, you don't have to be in the video, but if you are open to it, this is one of the best ways to get who you are, your values, what you stand for across, because you're able to showcase what you stand for, what you're about, and all that in your videos. Even if you're not willing to be in the video, even if you could do videos of a remodel where you can have a voiceover or you can have it to music, but just having the video on there helps. Also incorporating that, because one of the things we like to do in SEO, when we do SEO for our clients, is we like to uh, create them a YouTube page or a Vimeo page, because that's another way for us to drive traffic to your website by creating videos and having them on the YouTube page. Now we're driving traffic to your website, because, as you know, Google owns YouTube by so as many other ways that end users can find you, the better. It's about being omnipresent, because some people may not find you through a search. They may be on YouTube or on TikTok or wherever looking at, designs and come across your video. Then they click on it, go to your website. So the more ways they can find you, the better. And videos is a great way for that to happen. All right. Leveraging social proof. This is one of the things I had talked about that is the missing element that we see on a lot of websites, is that having reviews. So one, like I had talked about in the past, you want to try to get a new review at least 6 times a year. So if you can aim to get a review at least every other month, that's really all you need. So if you can have a review that is that is 2 months old at the longest, that helps you, because that shows that you are active. If you have reviews that are years old, you want to try to get some more reviews. So that's the first thing. You want to try to get up to date reviews. That's the first thing. Secondly, if you can get active live reviews, and so what I mean by live reviews, adding a widget onto your website where when they click on it, they actually go to the review. We've actually tested that, and that helps out a lot, because that shows that you are showing the client your actual reviews, and you're not just creating content on your site that you may have made up the review or had somebody making up. But if you actually have a live widget on your website where they can click on it and go to the review, whether it's on Facebook, Google, Yahoo, House, wherever it's at, and they can read it, that actually helps you, because it makes you look authentic in the eyes of the prospect. Like, okay, they're not afraid to have us see what other people have to say about it. And that's that third party credibility that I'm sure Miriam would attest to, helps out a lot. So having live reviews helps. So now oftentimes the widgets cost. So I'm not saying you have to have this, but at a minimum, you want to try to have up your latest review. So even if they search it wherever it is, they can find it. But if you are able to have the live connection, that helps out tremendously. All right. Get to the basics, and that's basically what I went over. What you need to have in the the above the fold area. What I talked about, having your name, phone number, having any of the credibility symbols, and that's if you're a member of the ASID, NKBA, AIA, HBA, home, all of those. If you're members of those, you want to have those on your website. You want to also ensure too that if you are members of those, ask, because oftentimes, and this is something that I usually ask, the remodelers that are members of these societies or of these organizations or associations, to ask them if they link back to your website. Oftentimes, some organizations and associations may not, or they may not unless you ask. So we've had one modeler that asked, and they actually had one of the larger organizations link back to their website only because they asked. And oftentimes, if you don't ask, you don't know. So they may have a policy where they don't link back, but how long is it going to take for you to reach out either on the phone or email just to ask them, do you link to our website? They can either say yes or no. And if they say no, no big deal. But if they say yes and they hadn't because you hadn't asked, that's a link that can help you in SEO terms. But having that on your website helps, and just having the basics helps. So just making sure that you're looking at that image that I have on what you should have in the above the fold area, making sure you have all that is the first step that you want to ensure you have all that on your site. Okay. Having a clear call to action. So whatever it is, whether it's about contact us, download this free uh, guide that we have, or visit our site, like, share, learn more, watch a video, subscribe to our newsletter, whatever your call to action is, making sure it's readily available and that it ties into what you're looking for. So if you really don't do newsletters, or you haven't done a newsletter in months or a year, you shouldn't have a call to action on your site that says join my newsletter. Because if so, and they've joined your newsletter and you haven't done one in a year, that's going to look bad to say, well, I joined your newsletter, but I haven't received it. So make sure and look back at your site to ensure that all the call to actions make sense to what you're offering, and they're actually what you want to have on your site. Okay. If you have any offers, whether that be a special promotion, 15% off in, the month of June, or you have a June special, or you have something for, like the 4th of July, saying you have something. If you have anything that is happening, you want to showcase that, you can either have like a link right at the top of the website. You can have a pop-up, or you can have something in the at the bottom in the footer of the website talking about that, wherever it is. Now, if you do not have, or if you do not usually offer any type of a promotion or special, you don't have to do this. But if you do, you want to promote this on your site and on social media as well. All right. As I said, mobile optimized. This is one that you want to ensure that is, of all the things, I know I said pick 2 or 3, this should be one of them, to make sure that your site is mobile optimized. Because like I said, 80% of search starts on a mobile device. So making sure that when you look at your site on a desktop and you look at your site on a mobile device, it's almost the same. Now, there's going to be a little changes here and there because it cannot be the exact same, because you don't have the same width of the screen on most mobile devices that you have on a desktop. But in terms of the layout and how things flow, it should almost look the same. So that's one thing that I said you could pick 2 or 3. This should be one of them that you should pick. Make sure that your mobile layout is almost the same as your desktop layout, because like I said, 80% of search starts on a mobile device. So you want to ensure that what they see on desktop is almost the same that they see on a mobile device. All right. Live chat. Now there are a lot of live chat features that you can do for free on your website, and there are some paid ones as well. But if you're able to, you want to try to have this on your website as well, because how this helps you. Live chat. Now, this takes time to set up. This is not something that you would do overnight. And why this takes time is because you want to create in the live chat all of your FAQs you want to have in here. So any of the frequently asked questions, anything that any of your current clients, past clients have asked you in the past, anything prospects usually ask you, you want to be able to have a question and answer for that. So if anybody comes to your site at like 2 o'clock in the morning and say, okay, what are your office hours? Or what are the services you provide? Or what are the service areas you provide? Or what are your typical pricing? anything of the FAQs that you were usually at, that's what you want to input into a live chat. And why you want to do a lot of that is because if, like I said, if you have anybody visit your site either after hours on the weekend, you could still potentially get leads from your website if you have that on your site. And oftentimes I'm asked, well, I don't want to have the prices, or I do not have the prices on my website, which is fine. But you can always have what the range is. Like for instance, if you do a kitchen remodel, and the typical kitchen remodel in your area is between 60K and 100K, you can have that on there so they have in mind, okay, this is the typical, this is what I need to plan for. If you do a bathroom renovation, it's anywhere between 15K and 50K. You can have the range. You don't have to have the exact cost that you do, but you can have the range in your area, just so you're providing the information. Typically in our area, it's in between X, Y, and Z, but for us to determine your exact cost, we need to have you contact us so we can understand what it is. So leave your information here, and one of our professionals will reach out to you within 24 hours. That may be a lead that you just got, just by having that price range in there and saying, okay, this is the typical for our area, but for you, we need to talk to you specifically to understand your needs to hand you an actual price. And so that's how you can get around not having what your prices are. Okay, but like I said, having a chat or a live chat or whatever, this actually takes some time, because if this is one of the things you want to add in, you are going to have to think about what are the questions that our clients or our prospects or leads usually ask, so you can have all of that information in there. So when they ask that type of question, it's answered, because you want to make it as comprehensive as possible so they can get the information they need, so they can determine, hey, do I want to leave my information and have you reach out to me? Okay. Having an online booking. Now, this may or may not apply to you, but if you have if you have a CRM already, and you have a lot of the people that you work with, they already have time slots where they could talk to potential leads or potential prospects. You want to somehow incorporate that into the website, where you can either have a page to book now, and where you can have that connected to your CRM, where it already has the times that either the designer or the owner or whoever it is available, so they can automatically book in. So this actually helps a lot of times after hours or on the weekends where you're not in the office to answer the phone. This helps you to get leads or to get prospects to book in with you for the next week or for the next day or whatever it is. Okay, so this, like I said, this may or may not apply to you, because oftentimes to have this on there, you need to have a CRM that's connected to this to have it work, correctly. So if you do not have a CRM, this may not be applicable for you now. All right. Site speed. There's a few different options here. A few of these I may have handed you when we went over SEO in the past, and just looking at your site speed, you can head to any of these websites, free websites, where you could put your URL in and check how fast it is. And it'll let you know for mobile and desktop how fast your website loads. It'll also hand you a list of issues with your website that you may need to fix. Now, a lot of them may be technical. If you do this and there's anything that you don't understand, just let me know during one of the Q&As we have on the next few weeks. Just let me know and I'll be able to explain, because a lot of it is going to be a lot of technical jargon that they're going to be saying, well, it's the conical in your site, and you'd be like, conical, what is that? And so a lot of times it's a lot of the technical issues, the back end of the code when your website was created, that's applying to it may be out of date. If you're on WordPress, you may need to update one of the plugins or whatever it is. But checking your site speed is easy to do, and understanding what can help to speed up your site helps as well, because that is one of the things that search looks at is how fast is your site load. Okay. How well does your site engage with other prospects? So this is what this is an aspect. This is actually a twofold aspect. This is in terms of lead follow up, in terms of either SMS messaging or anything like that. And it also has to deal with you know, are they are when anybody comes to your site, like I said, what is the user experience actually like? Are they finding immediately what they're after? Because if they don't, they may leave. And that's what we'll talk about next week. We'll talk about bounce rate. And that's more so with the Google Analytics. We'll talk about what that is. And what that is ultimately, bounce rate is how long it took them to leave your website. The shorter the time is, that means you have a higher bounce rate. So that means if they went into your website, they spent about 4 or 5 seconds and left. 9 times out of 10, they did not find what they were looking for, or it was the wrong website or they may have clicked on you by accident. So you want to usually have a low bounce rate. So you want them to spend as much time on your site as possible. There are there are one of the things that can increase time on page, videos. Like I said, if they're watching the video, obviously they want to see it, and they're watching it through, and they're spending more time on your site, and that's less of a bounce rate. So overall, the search engines are viewing your site in a positive light, because they're seeing that people that end up on your website, they stay for a long time. So there are some things we're going to talk about in the next few weeks about how to increase time on site as well, because we're going to talk about the typical blogs or content that you want to add in that help increase time on sites. And we'll talk about all that as well. But, engaging with the prospects, like I said, SMS. Now, this ties also in, this is actually applicable again if you have a CRM. So if you have a CRM, oftentimes the CRM has aspects where you can add in SMS messaging. So when a lead comes in where they either fill something out on your website, it goes into your CRM. Most of the CRMs now have a way that once that lead comes in, an SMS message or an email goes out immediately to say, we've received your information, and somebody from our staff will reach out to you within the next X amount of hours, or thank you for reaching out to us, whatever. That's just acknowledging that you received the information and that you are going to get back to them. So that's about engaging with the prospect, that they know that they have reached the right location and that you are taking care of them at the end. Okay. Making the site accessible. So this is one of the newer things here that we are talking about. And like I said, I was going to mention this for Robbie too, is that the government is really going hard at wanting websites to be accessible, because one of the huge benefits of it is actually you just open up all of your services to anybody with any type of disability, whether that be visual, hearing, or whatever. So it's just about being a good, almost like a good Samaritan, good business owner, because you're opening yourself up to everyone. You're making your site accessible to anybody that has a disability. It's also helping you out on the SEO side, because oftentimes a lot of these widgets, they are updating the code every day. Because anytime you add a new image, anytime you add anything new to your website, it updates the code. And so that's doing updates to your site every day. And so that automatically helps you on the SEO side, because now the search engines know that something is happening on your site all the time. Because oftentimes when anybody does search, the bots only check your site every 6 to 8 weeks, because they have millions of websites out there to check. But if they see that your site is constantly updating, and by having one of these widgets on your site is constantly updating, Now they're going to check your site more often. And so anytime you add anything new, it'll be picked up faster, as opposed to if they're checking it every 6 to 8 weeks. They may have checked it today, but tomorrow you may add up a big project that you want to get out there and promote, which if they're checking it every 8 weeks, they may not come back to your site for about 2 months to look at it. So it may not be reflective in SEO. That's another reason why SEO takes so long, because it's on how often the bots come to your site to see if you've done anything new. But if they've seen your site and you're not changing often, they come every 2 months, you may add something the day after they come. They may not come back to your site until 2 months later. And now you may not see the evidence of that into about 60 to 90 days from now. Whereas opposed to if you have a widget that's constantly updating, now they're going to check your site out more often. They may come once a week. So if you have something up there, now they're going to be to your site and it'll be out there next week, as opposed to two or 3 months from now. So that's another benefit to having this on there. And also it helps with time on page, because oftentimes when you have these on there and anybody new, because honestly, and I have this on my site and I'm going to show this so you can see it. So this is it right here. And this is not the only one. There's a lot of them out there, but this is one of the widgets. So I'm going to head to one of our video pages. So you can see here with the video, if I was to click on that and I hit on seizure, you see how it automatically muted the image. Because, if you have seizures, all of the bright lights pass images. And if I was to play this, all the contrast of the video is the same as it normally is, because it's going to alter it for anybody that may be susceptible to high light or anything like that, or in anything like that. So it'll automatically change a lot of it. For the visually impaired, you see how it just blew up the image. Okay, so you see it here, and now I hit that and it just blew up the image. So mind you, all of these changes only happen for anybody playing with this widget. It does not affect anybody else that is not either hearing impaired, visually impaired, or have any of the disabilities. They won't, anybody that does not have that or is not interested, that your website will not change. It will only change if they're playing with this widget. But like I said, if they are playing with it, that's helping you with time on page, because now they're playing with it to see, well, it can do this and ADA and all these type things and the cognitive. And then if they're hearing impaired, they can read to them. So even if it's, anybody that does not have any disabilities at all, and they happen upon this, they start playing with it, it's helping you in the SEO, because now they're spending time on your website that they might not normally spend on your site. So this is just another widget that will help you, because is helping you in terms of time on page, and is helping open your services to anybody with a disability. So what I was talking about with the government is that they're now incentivizing small businesses to have some type of ADA widget on their site for everyone. And they have where if you have it on your site, you could get up to 10K off. You can write off up to 10K of the expense of this on, from the business. So that's one of the incentives that they're offering. Now, one of the reasons I had mentioned about Robbie, California is going to the next level. They're in the process of trying to pass a law to require small businesses to have this on their site. And so now this may not happen now. This is just now happening. Even if it passed, it will not happen at the earliest to like 2026 at the earliest, I would say. Don't quote me, Robbie, but based on what I've been hearing, the earliest it would happen if it passes is 2026. But if that happens, then all sites will have to have something for ADA. And once that starts, if it passes, slowly but surely, you can expect that's going to happen nationwide. So right now, it's a benefit, and they're incentivizing you to have this on your site. Eventually, it's going to be a requirement. So Just letting you know about that. Okay, so that's
Okay.
all right. Let me get back here. So that was that. Okay, so that was mainly what I want to go over in terms of the optimization reviews that you want to look at, or the features that you want to make sure that you have on the site. Like I said, over the next few weeks, we're gonna talk about more, because I'm gonna talk about, because what I didn't have time to talk about today, because I was gonna have it in there, but I'd like to get all this in an hour, just not gonna be enough time. But one of the things I am going to talk about over the Q&A times is the type of content that will also attract people to your website and to have them stay on your website longer. Because again, the longer they're on your site, the better it is for SEO. So that's something we're going to talk about. But in terms of the review of what I talked about today, like I said, look at 2 or 3 of the items I talked about today to see if you have these on your site and see what you might want to add. What I would say, what I had called out was the mobile optimization, making sure you have your site mobile optimized. Like I said, 80% of search starts on a mobile device. So that's one of the ones you want to test on your site to make sure your site is mobile optimized. Okay. So what we went over, we had shared the common issues. We had explained why having all of these optimizations, it can help with conversions. We had talked about the what the website fundamentals are, and then we had looked at the elements that you can have on your site. Now, like I said, don't be overwhelmed by all of them. Only look at about 2 or 3 of them. Now, I like I said, if you have there are very few websites in our industry that have 8 or 9 of what I'm talking. So to have all of them, I'm saying if you was to have all of them, and you wouldn't have all of them overnight, but if you had planned to have all of them, I can almost guarantee in a few months you would dominate the competition, because you'll have things that they just don't have. But like I said, there are very few websites in this industry that have 7 to 8 of what I just talked about. Normally, websites in our industry, they may have 1 or 2, if that, or maybe because a lot of the websites are out of date unless they're working with a company to help to make sure it's up to date. But if they're on their own, they're not doing anything. A lot of times they may not have anything at all, or have either 1 or 2 of the elements, and that's it. So don't be overwhelmed that you got to have all these on your site tomorrow, because you don't. But like I said, look at the ones that you do not have and what you may want to add in. We could talk about it over the next few weeks. Okay. So for your homework, like I said, look at 3 initiatives to actually implement onto your website. Like I said, one of them should be mobile speed. That should be one of them. But look at what else is on the list that you want to add on there, or you want to either have you do or somebody else do to add to your website. And if you have not already done so, if you can by next week, install Google Analytics and Search Console onto your website. Uh, I actually have the same links I had when we were on SEO to show you how to do it if you don't know how. Because now, next week, like I said, we're going to get into analytics, and I'm going to start showing you what it shows, where people come from, what you need to look at. I'm not going to go over everything, because it's like a master class to know Google Analytics, because it's a lot of information that honestly you don't have to know all of it. But I'm going to show you high level what you should know to help you in your business and with your website. Okay, so if you have not already installed Google Analytics and Search Console, your main homework is to install that before next week. Okay, that was it, and I'm on top, on top. Good. So, any any questions? Hopefully, I didn't overwhelm you too much. That it's like I'm my mind is blown. I don't want to I don't want to ask you questions. It's just way too much. So.
No, you just covered a lot. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, I can.
Oh, okay. I didn't know because I'm on my phone. Yeah, no, you covered a lot. very thoroughly. So I don't have any questions right now.
Okay,
Thank you
no
though.
problem.
Thanks. This
Yes.
is great. You make it like really clear, easy to understand.
Yeah.
So I need to think about that accessibility thing, right?
Yeah, and yeah, for you mainly because you're in the state that they're trying to make it mandatory. So yeah,
Right. Right.
and like I said, I may have told you this in the past. Who they're going after mainly right now is in the e-commerce space. So, and you're not in that space, but
Okay.
e-commerce sites are the ones that they're really going after hard, is because that's where a lot of that is happening. And there's a lot of lawyers in California now that are going onto websites and they're sending them email. Your site is not accessible. If it's not accessible within the next week, whatever, we're going to file a lawsuit. A lot of it is really frivolous, but it's almost like ambulance, chasing for lawyers. That's
Yeah.
what they're doing with a lot of businesses. But about 80% of the businesses they're going after are in the e-commerce space. So you
Okay.
don't have to hurry as much. But since you are in the state where it's getting hit, that's why I want to bring that to you, to your attention that you may want to look at that.
Okay. And it sounds like there's benefits to doing it. That's
It
why I
is.
was just wondering because my clients, it's a very small percentage of people that I would typically work with. And so that's why I was wondering like how important that would be for me specifically, because it's that kind of top level income person that usually would hire me. So, but yeah, the e-commerce, that totally makes sense. I mean, everybody needs to have access to that.
Right. Right.
But like you said, there are some benefits to having it too
Yep. Yep.
with the
Because
widget.
we have a client that had it on their site all last year, and when they filed taxes in January, he reached out to me. Is like, Jason, what was that that you said about having this on our website? And he was able to get 10K that he off the taxes that he would have had to pay because he
Wow.
had that on the site. So I
Okay.
I claim that every year. I claim it
Yeah.
because you could claim it every year that it's on your website. Now, like I said, it's right now. If they make it mandatory, that's gonna go away, obviously, because you have to have it
Right.
point. But for now, it's
Yeah.
it can help you, in terms of that. But I claim it. I claim it.
So
Okay.
is that something money the government gives you? Because normally it's a business expense to pay for that because it's a subscription, right?
Right.
So you normally, so where's the government kickback in that? I guess I'm wondering.
It's just where it is for us. It was just, and I was able to write off a lot of the SEO that we do on our own website, because the having that widget on your site honestly is anywhere going to be between $50 and $100 a month. That's it.
Right.
So that's not going to be a lot in terms of over the year. But a lot of the SEO work we do is in that same space, is having to do with accessibility. So a lot of the SEO work, I'm able to write a lot of that off because because it actually pertains to helping with the widget and helping overall.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because the widget, like I said, is not as expensive. Like I said, depending on what you use, it could be anywhere from $50 to $100.
Right.
So it's not that bad. So
That's good.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah,
right.
thanks.
So like I said, next week we're going to talk about Google Analytics. Hopefully you already have that on your site. And we're not going to do a slideshow like this because like I said, I was actually talking with Miriam. It'll be more beneficial if I actually go into, and I've actually talked to a client that we could get in and see everything. So we'll go in there and see everything. So you'll be able to see it live.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jason.
All right,
Thanks,
y'all. Have a good
everybody.
weekend.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Have a good weekend.